at the part in the book where the reader is feeling a terrible sense of suspense.
All of the wahala, which is trouble, is coming up.
We're in a what if.
It's no more normal. Not the way it used to be.
Several of my narratives have been dealing with the apocalypse or are post-apocalyptic, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that those things terrify me. The fear of the unknown is just, for me as a writer, it may sound weird, but it's intoxicating. Us science fiction writers, we stay a step ahead of everything, but it's moving so fast that some of us are writing historic fiction as opposed to science fiction. Science fiction writers aren't psychic, but one thing that I've felt since all of this has happened is that this idea of, oh my gosh, it's finally happening. It's not that I've been hoping for it to happen, of course not, but I've always been intensely aware of the fragility of human civilization and how quickly it can fall apart.
Fiction always has the obligation to be believable. And real life has no obligation to be believable. So if I, or if any of my friends had written books about pandemics, we would have assumed automatically that you would have leaders who would take scientific advice, act upon it, and do what was best for the world. Normally, a writer of futuristic fiction will look at something that is going on in the world, isolate it, and use it not to predict, but to illuminate. I think this period of time is going to be a fertile time for storytellers for decades and I hope centuries to come.
The big question, what if, the big question in just 2 words, that almost always leads into a story. I think a book doesn't always answer questions. The best books provide the questions for the reader to consider. When I write about people emerging from such a catastrophe, I have to think about what they would hold dear. My fear is that we might look to the wrong people for answers. I'm a person who does tend to write happy endings, but we're not there yet.
I write a lot about characters who come up against a crisis that essentially obliterate their old way of doing things. It could be zombies, it could be Bigfoot, it could be World War I. I can tell you that specifically, the reason World War Z has no central hero is because that's not how big crises are solved. Those big crises that affect us all have to be solved by all of us. It may not be some alpha male with a big gun, or it may not be some clairvoyant wizard or someone with magical powers, superheroes. A lot of times it just comes down to each and every one of us getting up every day and doing some very boring, very mundane job that is a tiny little piece of a bigger picture. We all have a role to play.